Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sandra Turner, co-host of Thrive in the Age of AI. And here we are. Hello, Stelios. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, Andy?
Not so bad. Not so bad. So welcome back. And we're kicking off into the next little installment of our conversation about this whole AI stuff. And I think one of the topics we talked about was AI in software development. Um, so obviously there's all these engineers out there. They've traditionally had a certain way of how they develop software. Um, what have you been seeing recently? I know you do a bit of software development yourself, actually. You know, whilst you spinning all these different plates that you do around the world. Any perspectives from your experience so far, Celeste?
Yes, absolutely. I think AI is rapidly changing software development. I think that in the very near future, is in the next 2 years, maybe most of the code will be written using AI, with the humans being either in the driver's seat, like explaining what needs to be done, or essentially trying to fix maybe some mistakes that the AI has done and things like that. I'm using AI in my work, I think pretty much everyone these days, and we saw some big companies like Google and Meta saying that their engineers they're using AI more and more. So it seems to be really part of the plan, if anything.
So I mean, so in your view, I mean, obviously traditionally, when I was a developer many years ago, you would have a library. Like you would write a library, and you would call that library or that function, so you could reuse code. But what you're saying now is that the way in this AI world it's traversed into now? Are you saying that we're using AI to write not only the libraries and the call functions, but also the classes and the whole body of the actual um, piece of code that you're writing? Are
Yeah,
you're getting to
yeah,
write the
exactly.
whole thing basically?
Yeah, exactly. I think that the AI can write the whole thing. There's obviously limitations in terms of the context, and when you set up a project, you're going to set up. You have to set up a bunch of files and organize them, this and that, right?
Mm.
There's still some maybe challenges as to how this information is being parsed. That being said, there are IDEs that can already integrate with LLMs and things like that. OpenAI is investing a lot in ChatGPT's reasoning capabilities, so they have all these reasoning models. Um, so I think we're going to see more and more of that stuff in the very near future. If anything, like OpenAI released O3, but it released O3 Mini and Mini High to its subscribers. So it didn't release um, proper, like the real O3, right? So I'm really curious to see the impact that O3 will have on the community once it's released. I expect that it's going to have very interesting reasoning capabilities as well as memory. Right now, it seems in the version available to most users, the main problem is the memory.
So one of the things that I did was in December, and I don't know if you know this gentleman, but there's a guy called Patrick Dubois. He's kind of like what I would call him the father of DevOps. Yeah, so he
Okay.
coined the phrase DevOps over 10 years ago. I spoke to him about the kind of the advent of what they call the AI engineer, and what he was talking about was the things like Cursor. There's a new platform called Cursor.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you used that?
Yes, but not too much. Somehow I'm just more accustomed to just ChatGPT, but I'm not saying it's the optimal setup, you know. And also there's like no code builders with integrated AI capabilities and all this kinds of stuff. So for me, it's more of a case of keeping my stack as it was, and then using ChatGPT for some things, right? Whereas for others, I guess it's more about having an integrated AI development stack.
Right, I see what you mean. So you're actually effectively prompting in ChatGPT, getting the code then from ChatGPT and copying that back into the IDE or into Python or whatever to
Yeah, yeah, correct. And
run
then
it.
making adjustments. But for me, what is interesting is also the reasoning capabilities, right? Because one thing is using this for these capabilities for boilerplate, and that's a completely different thing to use them to come up with new solutions, learn about algorithms that maybe you didn't know, and things like that. So this is what I find particularly interesting.
Because I suppose I don't know if you've got the same view, but sort of my view is that obviously developing software is a creative activity. It's a bit. It's like painting a picture, and so you
Yes, anyways,
you create. There's a creative element to it. Do you do you feel like more creative when you're interacting with that chat GPT or that platform, or is it just really you're just using it as a utility? What's your view on that? Because at one end of the spectrum you've got utility, and the other end you've got creativity. So where does it sit on that paradigm shift or
yeah, that's a very
that
good call.
continuum?
Yeah. So I think what you're describing again is very interesting because uh, like it was Karpathy who coined the term vibe coding, which essentially means that you code something and you just don't really look at the code that carefully. You say to like ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever, hey, can you do this for me? And then you copy and paste it, you see how well it does, and then if there's a problem, you just copy and paste the error back into the prompt. Maybe you give it a few extra instructions, but for the most part, you don't do much of the actual coding yourself. And I guess this term vibe coding itself implies um, that you are just coding based on feeling. You're not coding based on what is really there. Or like on actually going through the code and every little detail and this and that. And actually, and I do think that this can increase creativity in certain ways, as in if you feel like trying something out, you can ask ChatGPT to write the code for you and say, hey, can you write a code for me to do this and that, and you see how well it works instead of having to spend 2 or 3 hours to do it yourself. So I believe we're going to be seeing more of that. We might also be seeing that suddenly, if a developer is weak in a particular area of development or computer science, maybe it won't matter as much as long as you know how to ask the right questions. Like if, for example, you need help with an algorithm, right? Let's say you want an algorithm, you want to traverse a graph, right? So you no longer need to be an expert in graph theory to just build the algorithm or even find the library. You can say, hey, can you just implement the best algorithm for this situation? And the AI will do it for you, which is quite interesting because then it raises the question, what role does expertise play in all of that? You can't just have a bunch of people just vibe coding and copying and pasting stuff onto an IDE.
Well, but I suppose yeah. I mean that's very fresh actually, isn't it? Because that only came out in February this year, 2025. There's a phrase from Andrej Karpathy, is that right? The ex Tesla guy. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And
So,
yeah,
but,
so
but yeah, I mean, I suppose is that Vine coding like the engineer version of prompt engineering? Because prompt engineering sounds very kind of like technical, but actually it's just effectively interacting with the platform with a natural language, isn't it? Talking to the actual
yeah,
platform.
yeah, I think prompt engineering one of those things that kind of came and went in a way, as in we said, oh, now it's LLMs are a thing and ChatGPT is a thing, and now you can just control an AI using prompts. And I remember when ChatGPT was first created, it was like all these cool prompts, and people were trying to jailbreak it and this and that. I think prompt engineering um, it's still going to be like a skill, but I don't really see a job for people calling themselves prompt engineers in the near future. Just expect that pretty much like Excel and Microsoft Word and these tools that were, and maybe 20 years ago, when was it? Like you could just go and become certified on Excel.
Yeah, yeah.
I think prompt engineering will be similar because if anything,
Is it is it just so? Are you saying is it just like a label? Like when things come out, people want to put a label on it. Is that what you think happened with prompt engineering, and now
yeah.
it's been evolved to this vibe coding kind of approach? Is that what?
Yeah, well, I think also it's evolving in kind of an essential skill, and because you interact with an AI, with an LLM using natural language, it doesn't, you don't need to be like a super genius to do this. And I do think that the LLMs, they're being fine-tuned and becoming more efficient in interpreting these types of instructions, if you know what I mean. So you don't need to be incredibly intelligent and knowledgeable about the LLM's workings to make it work, if that makes
You
sense.
can't say that, Silas. You got to like deep. You got to make it mystical. Yeah, you got to say, look, I've got this secret sauce. I've got this like magic wand, and suddenly out the back comes all this brilliant code.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it is kind of mystical in the background, what is happening behind the scenes. But I think in terms of what is happening, in terms of the actual output, um, it's really as easy as it gets, right? That's the goal. You're just going to interact with a machine, with an algorithm through text and voice. I don't think it can get much simpler than that, really, for a human. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's
What
still
would you, I mean, what would you say? I mean, have you done any benchmarks to say what, with and without this new capability, what's the productivity gain? Would you say? Are you getting a 50% productivity gain? Are you getting
yeah,
95%? What
yeah,
easy?
easy. 50% is easy, I think. Yeah, depending on how you
Really?
use it and whether you know how to use it and all that. But it's just getting easier over time. I think it's very, very good for people that already have some experience and they can predict what mistakes the LLM
Mm,
might do.
yeah.
Less experienced developers, it might be a bit risky if you just copy and paste stuff and you have no context of what's really going on and what could go wrong. That's where I'm really wondering, what's going to happen with more junior developers and data scientists and people like that who have no inherent concept of how these things really work in practice.
Oh, you mean but are you saying the risk there is around not understanding the first principles of what they're actually doing enough at that time?
Yeah, either first principles or mistakes that can happen, as in, for example, if you tell me, yeah, I want to solve this type of problem, let's say time series forecasting, whatever, I can quickly tell you the mistakes that someone might make because I've done them myself like 10 years ago. A junior hasn't been through that curve.
Yeah, he hasn't flown close to the sun and got a t-shirt and got burned a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's always that's the thing with every field, right? So when you're new and inexperienced, you just don't know what you don't know. You're gonna make more mistakes. It's the same with everything, from driving a car to I don't know, being trying to send a rocket to Mars. Okay, that's probably too extreme example in terms of
I suppose
complexity.
I suppose that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I mean, I suppose the stuff that you're doing with the Tesseract Academy,
Mhm.
you're trying to uprate and help people get on that next level of capability, next level of knowledge. You're raising an interesting point. Is that there's obviously, I remember seeing in what was it, in Standard quite a few years ago. He's like, there's two options now. It's either go to Google or Goldman. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like previously you go into investment banking if you come out of university, or you go straight in. Now potentially you probably go into a tech company. Um, any in the people that you interact with, I mean, you had that, a couple of events in London recently that we talked about yesterday or the other day, was the situation where people who want to get into this industry, want to get into this kind of opportunity. You've got to start somewhere. So how do you deal with that? Because it's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like the thing. It's a bit like when before, you wouldn't hire anybody because they didn't have any experience, but you can't get any experience because you can't get, that kind of vicious circle. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, 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 absolutely. I think that I'm not sure how AI is going to change this in the sense that I think every professional will need to learn how to adapt AI to their profession. In terms of how someone is going to get started, um, I do think that the barriers to getting started with AI and acquiring some skills and capabilities are zero. Like anyone can just start literally now and learn more about AI. And this is one of the things we're doing with the Tesseract Academy. There's no question about it. So if anything, I'd say there might be more barriers to entry to learning AI for senior professionals, right? Compared to more junior professionals, simply because they're used to a certain way of doing things. So I think there's probably like a curve, like if you are mid-level senior, you're probably at a sweet spot. Too junior, you might be a bit lost to where to get to start from, but it's easy for you to learn about AI. If you're older, it's considerably, I guess, you might have to learn how to do things in a new way, really. But still, I don't want to discourage anyone or anyone to think that it's impossible. I still think it's really doable for anyone. That's really the work we're doing with Tesseract.
So okay, I suppose you've got different curriculum paths, haven't you? If you're going into if you're starting from zero, or I suppose, but I don't know. I mean, I think, I mean, one of my sons, obviously James earlier, he's 19, he's now doing it at Manchester University, and he's he's doing, I think, business and technology. So I presume a lot of the courses now have got technology baked into them. I think he was programming or developing in Python at 16. So a lot of the curriculum now earlier, they've been made aware of it. I suppose it's then, do they go deeper into it? But I suppose it's that balance about theoretical academic experience versus practical, actually in the field, so to speak, in a real company. I suppose that's what you're talking about is the difference. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting real experience in a company is one thing. I mean, in terms of using AI, it kind of depends on your circumstances. The ideal scenario is that you already have some ways in which you can apply it in real life. Otherwise, it might be too abstract. You know what I mean? But yes, I think
Oh, because you don't understand the business, so you could potentially you could go down the wrong route. You need
yeah.
to understand the business context and the business process or whatever you may be putting in place. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So cool. Yeah. So what else was on your mind today? Then what else would you like to cover?
Yeah, I wanted to maybe briefly before we go touch upon some other aspects of software development and AI. I think we spoke a lot about how AI will increase the productivity of software developers and other professions in that area, like data science and engineering and all that. I think what we didn't touch upon was how AI will make coding more accessible as well. So we launched a free course with Tesseract Academy on becoming like a data scientist without any like coding experience. And the course is not meant for people. I mean, someone who wants to get a career in data science can take up the course, but it's also for people that they just want to acquire some skills in analytics. I think AI is making all that more accessible. So I can no longer see someone who wants to learn basic analytics just going on Excel and learning about formulas, right? When ChatGPT can do all that for them, and Claude, and all these types of LLMs.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying there is you're appealing to business people who want to learn. Is that how to develop applications, or just to build models, or both? What's the kind of the idea behind it?
I think look at different uses. I think analytics is one. So many people would just like to do analytics for the department or the business, and they just don't have the resources to hire someone. Then another one is I think we're going to see one person companies at some point. Like someone is going to come up with an idea, use a no-code builder, develop the app, use an AI marketing software to market and send out emails and all that. So I think these are the first two uses that come to my mind. I'm pretty sure there are potentially more. I was reading that big consultancies, they're firing people. I wonder whether they're going to replace some of these people with AI. I didn't really dig deep into this to see whether it's junior or senior people they're firing. But I can easily imagine a lot of consultants, management consultants, getting replaced by AI.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I saw something with PwC. Yes, I think it was yesterday or the day before. I think what they were doing was they were actually restructuring what they do at the senior level, but then
mm,
they were also they was reshaping what they do on the intake as well.
yeah.
So it was kind of say you could say they're kind of reshaping the whole organization, and I don't think they've been the first one either. It does mean is it this thing about rather than being well, I suppose I've also seen other things from PwC about actually releasing software as well. They're starting to release software products as well. So maybe they're changing the whole business model around
Mm,
um, releasing more software-led initiatives.
yeah.
Software-led and then supported by humans. Those things that know and love.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I mean, I think AI will be able to do a lot of the reasoning that consultants are doing sometimes. I think this is also another fascinating.
What's the IQ then of these models? Then would you say surely it can't be a larger IQ than you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if IQ applies here because, like, if they get trained on IQ tests, then they're just gonna pass these tests extremely fast.
They're going to be like beating Mensa. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's more of a case of how can you ensure that the how can you ensure that they're actually useful for the task that you want them to do. So, for example, AI agents, they're all about connecting different parts of a process and just making it work. Like, oh, I go on this website, I do something, then I go on that other website, I do something else. And if you think about it, this doesn't take too much intelligence, but AI can do it now because the infrastructure is not there, the API connections and all that. So this is what agents are going to do really.
I
Uh,
mean, like the specialization. So there's going to be different agents with different tasks
I'd say
and
actually the
jobs to be
generalization,
done.
as in an agent where, now, for example, we're recording this podcast and then, you're going to stop recording and extract the video and all that. So this doesn't take like 200 IQ, right? But an AI agent wouldn't be able to do it.
It does for me. Just for me.
Fair enough. Hopefully, you see the point I'm trying to make.
This is my podcast IQ.
Yeah, podcast IQ 1000.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, so thanks for dropping in today. It's been a good little snippet, and we'll continue to publish further snippets, or we call it episodes. Maybe you just rename them. They're not called episodes anymore. They're called snippets. Stylianos snippets. Stylianos and Andrew about snippets. So that was Thrive in the Age of the AI, episode 2, and we'll be back soon to talk to you about this stuff. And thank you for joining us, Stylianos. That was Andrew Turner, Stylianos Kampakis, and co-host of the Thrive in the Age of AI show. So see you soon. Thanks.
See you.